Meanwhile, the police officer who fatally shot an unarmed man in Tulsa, Oklahoma, has been charged with first-degree manslaughter. The incident was caught on two widely circulated police videos. Tulsa County District Attorney Steve Kunzweiler yesterday announced the charges against police officer Betty Shelby.
In the matter of the death of Terrence Crutcher, I determined that the filing of the felony crime of manslaughter in the first degree against Tulsa police officer Betty Shelby is warranted.
The announcement comes just 6 days after the fatal shooting of 40-year-old Terrence Crutcher. Video shows Mr. Crutcher walking toward his car with his arms raised and then placing his hands on the top of the car. Just after the view of the man is blocked, shots ring out and he falls to the ground. Demario Solomon Simmons is the family attorney.
We knew that if TPD did their job and presented the evidence fairly and transparently to the DA's office, Kunzweiler's office, Steve Kunzweiler's office, that it was readily apparent that Officer Shelby had to be charged because a crime had been committed.
An attorney for Ms. Shelby has said that she believed Mr. Crutcher posed a threat by reaching into his SUV window. The police department said Mr. Crutcher was not armed and did not have a weapon in his vehicle. Let's get some analysis now from New York criminal defense attorney David Schwartz, who's with us live this morning. David, your take on these charges in Tulsa?
Well, I think it's a tragedy all around. Obviously, there was a death here. There was a homicide. It seems to be excessive force, unjustifiable. That on the one hand, and there has to be penalties. On the other hand, we're living in an age now where we're playing Monday morning quarterback on police actions, and it's a very scary, slippery slope. Police officers have a very tough job every single day, and the split-second decision on whether or not to use force or not is not a decision that most people would want to make. However, certainly Shelby needs to be punished. I think the big issue here is lack of training. It just seems that there is a lack of training out there, and police officers need to be trained thoroughly in these situations, or that she just panicked, and that may be also. So there's a lot of things brewing here in this case.
All right, so in Tulsa here, now this incident happened last Friday. The charges against the police officer Betty Shelby were announced yesterday, just 6 days afterwards. Is that soon?
No, in a case, in a police case, usually there's a lot more analysis. But in most cases, in over 90, most cases where there's a death, where there's some sort of homicide, usually you're dealing with grand jury issues of keeping a defendant in jail. And in New York, you have to indict in 6 days, or else the defendant is then ROR'd. Obviously, in this case, we don't have that problem. But it's not too soon. The facts are what the facts are. Certainly the DA analyzed that video, and according to that video, the victim's arms were in the air, and it seems to be an unjustifiable shooting. But there are defenses also that he was trying to reach inside into the car. So these facts have to be shed out.
All right. So you touched on it a little bit, but why no grand jury here?
Well, there are multiple ways to get an indictment. So you can impanel a grand jury, which is what we do in New York mostly, or you could just have a preliminary hearing, which is what happened here in this case. And in this case, it's fairly common and easy to get an indictment against somebody. So the 6 days doesn't surprise me that much. There's not much scientific evidence. It's pretty clear. Who did the shooting. So it's not a hard case to bring to an indictment.
We're speaking live this morning with David Schwartz, New York criminal defense attorney. He's giving us some analysis of what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where police officer Betty Shelby has been charged with first-degree manslaughter. The role of the videos here, comparing Tulsa to, say, what happened in Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte police don't seem willing to release the video right now, but this was fairly widely circulated when it came to Tulsa. Why the difference?
Yeah, well, I think that's the reason why there are probably not these massive protests in Tulsa. It seems that the police department and law enforcement officials in the DA's office have been pretty upfront with citizens of Tulsa as to what happened. The mayor came out and said it was very disturbing. So the way they handled it was in a very open manner, and I think you see the results. In Charlotte, at least the appearance is that they're hiding the evidence, which in a case like this, in this day and age, you just can't do that. Although, as you're investigating a case, you don't necessarily want to announce to the world all your evidence, that includes your video evidence. So, textbook approach, they're not doing anything wrong in Charlotte. It's just in this day and age that we live in, the people demand to see it for themselves.
All right, this video in Tulsa, there's like a quick blockage of the video before the shots happen and Mr. Crutcher falls to the ground. Could that be an opening for the defense attorney to say something happened there to lead Officer Shelby to fire her weapon?
Absolutely. So there are many defenses in this case. Certainly the split-second decision-making of a police officer, the fact that we were blocked, if the police officer is in fear of her life or is in fear that a crime is about to take place, or even in fear that he is reaching for a gun, certainly at that point it's a justifiable shooting. If Crutcher was not obeying the police to get on the ground, which it appears that he wasn't, if it appears that he was under the influence of some sort of drug and is acting erratically, which there was some commentary about, certainly there's going to be there will be many factual defenses when it comes to whether or not this was a justifiable or an unjustifiable shooting. So a police officer will always have defenses in a case like this where there's a split-second shooting.
Yeah. Excellent. Hey, thanks for a few minutes. Nice talking to you this morning. David Schwartz, New York criminal defense attorney, with us live this morning. It's 15 minutes now after the hour on This Morning, America's First News. Need a website? Why